Peace and blessing to the chosen. All praise to the Most High. Throw this music on before we get started. Give everybody time to get in. Pray everything well on y'all end with you as an individual and as the family as a unit.
Hold on, my child. I love you when you didn't go too far. And to me, how you made it to walk free today. And you don't have a run car. Oh, you're always completely beat up. But this time, you didn't cross the line. Sitting around going dirt upon my character, using the same breath that's mine. Father, right, I crossed the line. Always got something to say. If only I could focus on the right thing. It's you that I need. Even in my hardest times, you provide for me. Even the words that I'm saying, it's coming to me as I say it, not playing. You say you think not to know what you need to say, yeah. You bless me with words. Thank you for all you do for me. Healing me in the midst of all the birds. Father, wherever you go, I wanna come to. Oh, wherever you go, higher, and you shall, I wanna come to. Yeah. Take me wherever you go, lift me up, yeah. And my spirit's love. Take me wherever you go, lift me up. When I'm low, I owe it all to you, yeah. I owe it all to you, 'cause that's what you deserve. I owe it all to you, oh, 'cause that's what you deserve. You deserve me, and I will climb the tallest mountain for you, yeah. Oh, and I will build most beautiful fountain that I can. I wanna come. Yeah.
Okay. Peace and blessings, everybody. As you see on the screen, this song was by Tevin White. I want to come to. Here it is, right here on SoundCloud. Matter of fact, let me go ahead. Let me highlight that. And I'm gonna drop the link. Drop the link in the comment box. If you like this song, you better go listen to it again in your spare time. Peace and blessings again, everybody who tuning in, who will tune in. I pray the Most High been merciful to you all throughout the week, bringing us even up until this point. As we know, as we continue to work, strive to go after the Most High, to be obedient, to increase and elevate in the worship of the Most High, serving Him, the adversary and the woes and the droves, they also increase against us to cause us to be discouraged in this war. Don't be discouraged. If you get down, understand and know that that's a part of the process. But beyond that, we got to understand what we're working for, what we're striving for. It's going to be fallouts with people. It's going to be a time where you might be suffering affliction in your body through sicknesses. It's going to be time where you'll be suffering from different cases of just, you feel confused and feeling not good enough. I went through that. So I go through these things. It's all good. One thing we ain't going to do is let go and cause ourselves or let ourselves become victims instead of victors. All right, so we're going to stay on that road. But tonight, family, what I want to talk to you all about or share is about the situation what we read of in the book pertaining to Jacob stealing the birthright of Esau. Now, did he steal it? Was it stolen or was it sold to him? So we want to get some information, some background information, things that was going on that we don't see within the common canon, the canonical version of the Bible. The 66 books that most people are familiar with. Just that, the King James, or you might be using NIV or ESV or a different type, but it only has 66 books. But we have other oracles, brothers and sisters, that go into detail about why this transaction happened, how it happened, and what was really going on in the spirit realm. All right. So we're gonna open up with. Let's go to Romans. Romans 9. Peace and blessings to everybody over YouTube that's tuning in. Peace and blessings to everybody over Facebook that's tuning in. If you commenting over Facebook, I want to salute you now, let you know Shalom. Much shalom to you and your household, but I cannot see if you comment. I don't know why and what's up with the ends and or why it's working their way, but I don't see any comments from anybody over Facebook. I'll be able to see it after the broadcast. Sister Deasia, Shalom. Doster Group, my all praise to the Most High. Thank you for that blessing. May He bless this gathering as well as you, family. Bach Wilson, Shalom. Sister V, Shalom. Everybody else who tuning in. Kara Sansota, Shalom. Nonetheless, here we are. Let's see. All right. Romans 9, where we starting it though, saints. Romans chapter 9. I got some on my screen. It's kind of distracting me a little bit. I'm gonna have to get it off. A message from StreamYard. All right, we're going to Romans 9 though. Romans 9. I'm gonna start with verse 1, family. It says, I say the truth in Christ, I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh. Verse 4, who are Israelites. All right, so this Paul letting us know, like he could wish that he himself was cut off from the Savior for his brethren, and not just his brethren in talking about a body of believers. He goes further to identify, I'm talking about my brethren in the flesh, in physical form, in body that comes with skin, muscle, bone, tissue, tendons, all these things, the nervous system, all of that. He said, who are Israelites? Israelites, those who descend from the 12 tribes and the sons of Jacob. Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. Therefore, his descendants, those are Israelites and people that come from those 12 tribes. The tribe of Judah, Ephraim, Manasseh. We're talking about Reuben, Levi, Issachar, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, these different ones. All right. It says, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of the Most High and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning the flesh Christ came, who is over all, the Most High blessed forever. Amen. So these people is the very reason, this is a part of the function with the world or the people who have not studied or don't know. This is a part of the function of why the Savior came to the earth. For you melanated people, he came for us. This is a major key in understanding. If we take it back and lam it back off our last broadcasting, we're talking about idols of the heart, and within those idols, we seen the false Messiah painted as a Caucasian or European person from Caesar Borgia. All of that was to deter the people from understanding what we're going to go into tonight. The importance of that birthright, the importance of the blessing that came from Isaac onto Jacob. All of this plays a part into that. Continuing on though, it says, not as though the word of the Most High have taken none effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. Neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Now this is important. Because when we quote off and we say, well, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I made mention of this in the Idols of the Heart video. It's telling us right here, neither because they are the seed of Abraham, because Abraham also had a son named Ishmael, but the blessing wasn't given to him. All right, it was given to Isaac. It says, are they all children? But in Isaac shall thy seed be called. That is, they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of the Most High. So we get edification building up to the point, brothers. So we got a lot to go into. We're going to eat tonight. So be ready. You're going to need your Apocrypha. We're going to go into Jubilees. We're going to go into the Legend of the Jews. And we're going to go into the book of Jasher along with the canon. But the word is telling us here in verse 8 that everybody is not the children of the Most High. Let us be edified on that point as well. The devil got children out here too. All right. It says, but the children of the promise, we're going to go into that, are counted for the seed. The children of the promise. It says, for this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, verse 11, pay attention. It says, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of the Most High, according to election, might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. So this thing was already ordained by the Most High. We're going to go into that to get edification on it. Get some understanding on what are we reading. Verse 13 says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. All right. So, and we're going into the reason for that. The reason of why the Most High said he loved Jacob and he hated Esau. All right. So let's go with Genesis 18, because we talked about the promise. So we got to go from, we're talking about descension as far as coming down a bloodline, but ascension or ascending, going up, you know what I'm saying, up the timeline of how these events unfolded. Genesis 18. Genesis 18, brothers and sisters. Make sure you got your highlighter, you got your pen, you got some paper to write these things down. All right. Give me a second too. Let me see. Let's see if I can get this off the screen. All right. That's a lot better for me. All right. Genesis 18, brothers and sisters. I'm going to start with verse 1. Genesis chapter 18, verse 1. It says, And the Most High appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent during the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground. Now, this person is running to do all this is talking about Abraham. We're going into the promise that was given to him. Verse 3, and it said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on. For therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hasted to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. All right, so you got these strangers that approach Abraham, moving with the hospitable spirit that was on him. This is for us to learn from, brothers and sisters. This is something that fends off an evil mindset and an evil inclination. Let us move with hospitality. Blessings come with it. All right, so this is how he moving with these people. Verse 9, it says, And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. All right, so we're going into their promise. The promise being a child, that child being Isaac. All right, it says, Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? So she's like, listen, I'm old. I didn't got to the elderly stage, beyond elderly. Should I have a child at this time? She laughed in a way saying, like, man, y'all tripping. All right, which that ties into the reason for the name Isaac, laughter. All right. Verse 13 says, And the Most High said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Is anything too hard for the Most High? At the time appointed, I will return unto thee, according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laugh not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. All right, and let me clarify something else for those who it may have thrown you off a bit, because here it tells, it says, In the Most High said unto Abraham. These 3 men that was visiting Abraham, these were angels. These were messengers from the Most High. Actual one little to you as well, Hebrew. These were angels from the Most High. All right. So when the Most High speaks through these angels, even though they may use their own voice, it's still the Most High's word that they repeat. Hence, going into the reason why people shouldn't be mad at the messengers, because the messenger is only carrying or transporting what's being said. All right, but it's really coming from a different source. But proceeding on, though, family. Let's go to Genesis 21. So the angel let him know, look, man, look, you're going to have a child. We're going to come back a year later at the time that you conceive or you having this child. So we're going to Genesis 21. Genesis 21, and we're going to start with verse 1. All right. And it reads, and the Most High visited Sarah as he had said, and the Most High did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which the Most High had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as the Most High had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. Old age he had this child. Verse 6, and Sarah said, the Most High have made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had born unto Abraham, mocking. Now we're going into what I was telling you about the descension or the lineage of why the blessing of the Most High went from Abraham to Isaac instead of from Abraham to his son Ishmael, and from down instead of going to Esau unto Jacob. All right. But let me go to Joshua right quick. We're gonna go to Joshua 10. So hold it, because we're gonna be in Genesis quite a bit tonight. Let's go to Joshua. Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. All right. And we're going here because, where is it? I told you the books we're going to be using tonight was going to include this book, Joshua. All right, referenced in Joshua 10 and 13, 2 Samuel 1 and 18, and 2 Timothy 3 and 8. All right, so you're not going to find this within your commonly used canonical Bible that contains 66 books. Go check your table of contents. You're not going to see it. But to verify that it is, a source for us to use, we're going to go here. Joshua 10, verse 13, it says, and the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down about a whole day. All right. And let's go to 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 1 and 18. So how was the canon referring to this book that, when I was in attendance at the Sunday church, or even having a family member who is a pastor, none of this ever came out to be shared to say, hey, we got books that's not being mentioned or not even talked about, rather even scathed over within the Sunday convocation. All right. 2 Samuel 1 and 18, though. And it reads, it says, also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. All right, so now let's go into Jasher. Jasher 21 will be going. Jasher chapter 21, saints. Jasher chapter 21. All right, and so the launch pad for this here, we just came from Genesis, we holding on to that, Genesis 21. All right, in verse 9 it says, and Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had born unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. All right, so we're going to go into the detail. What was their mocking? What was going on? Jasher chapter 21, saints. Let's see, we're going to go with verse 13. It says, and when Isaac was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Isaac and seated himself opposite to him. And he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Isaac. So at this point, Ishmael about 14 years old. So I'll jump back up a couple verses. Verse 11. It says, and Ishmael, the son of Abraham, was grown up in those days. He was 14 years old when Sarah bare Isaac to Abraham. All right, and the Most High was with Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and he grew up and he learned to use the bow and became an archer. All right, so he learned that. He's still, you know what I'm saying, coming from a royal man, that being Abraham, but he wasn't chosen. All right, so again, we're going into the mocking. This is why Sarah was telling Abraham, hey, man, get Hagar and her son out of here. Get them out of here. This is what was going on. And when Isaac was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Isaac and seated himself opposite to him. And he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Isaac. So how would you feel if you had somebody aiming an arrow, a dangerous weapon at your son? You would be hostile. Verse 15, and Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Isaac, and it grieved her exceedingly on account of her son. And she sent for Abraham and said to him, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. All right. It says, and Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning. And he took 12 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness. And they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran with the inhabitants of the wilderness. And Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. All right, so we're going to go back to Genesis, though. Back to Genesis. Back to Genesis, saints. All right. Verse 11. It says, and the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. So him hearing these words from Sarah, like, that's still his son. You know what I mean? He didn't want to put him away, but look at the response that was given to him. In verse 12, it says, and the Most High said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. And all that Sarah have said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Like what we started at Romans 9. Say that Isaac shall thy seed. Not all the children of Abraham are going to be counted as the seed, but the children of the promise. So those who spun from the child that was promised. All right. And that coming in lineage with or lining up with the fact that even though they came from the promised child, it wasn't directed to Esau and Jacob. This thing was preordained, brothers and sisters. Verse 13, it says, and also the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. So he still had mercy on him. All right, let's go to Genesis 25. Genesis 25, saints. Genesis 25, and we're going to hit verse 19. Genesis 25, verse 19. Indeed, indeed. And it reads, it says, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Most High for his wife, because she was barren. And the Most High was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. So now we're moving into the stage of where Isaac has become an older man. He has a wife, and he's about to have children. Who are these children Isaac about to have or beget? There's going to be Jacob and Esau. But continuing on, it's letting us know that his wife she couldn't conceive. So he had to go pray about it. He said he was entreated of the Most High. And we're going to get some detail about what that meant. What did he exactly do? Because there's a question mark for some people. Some people, okay, well, what does it mean that he entreated the Most High? We'll get some at the script. Verse 22 says, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Most High. So if it is so that, I'm going to have these children and, he didn't bless me to have children, why is it such a hard thing? Why am I suffering like this? Verse 23, and the Most High said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Now, before I even continue on, we got to look at how this verse even started off. It wasn't man that said this, or was it? All right, but it's clarified that it's a messenger. It says, and the Most High said. All right, so the Most High gave her this information and let her know what's going on with her. All right, even though we're going to see who told her that exactly. Let's go to 2nd Esdras. Going into the Apocrypha. 2nd Esdras. This book here. If it's your first time tuning in, you need to order you one of these. The Apocrypha. 14 books that was removed from the commonly used Bible. So we're going to 2nd Esdras chapter 6, though, saints. 2nd Esdras chapter 6. Page 20 if you got this red Apocrypha. All right, 2nd Esdras chapter 6. I'm going to start with what I got here. I'm going to start with verse 1. It says, and he said unto me, in the beginning when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the winds blew, before it thundered and lightened, or ever the foundations of paradise were laid, before the fair flowers were seen, or ever the movable powers were established, before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or ever the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measures of the firmament were named, or ever the chimneys in Zion were hot. So before anything was ever even done, it says, ere the present years was sought out, and or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned. Before they were sealed, they have gathered faith for a treasure. Then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other. Verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. All right, so even in the birth of these sons, these twins, guess what? It was a prophetic thing going on, but when things take place in the spiritual realm, brothers and sisters, there's always something going on in the spiritual realm too. So let us not just be focused or set upon what we can see before us or what's going on in the immediate. Even as what I started today's message or tonight's message, saying that some of us, we're going through these different things, these molding processes. Don't allow these things to break you. Don't allow these things to take you from the faith. We got to understand and ask them, well, why am I going through this? More than likely, it's the Most High building you up for the next level. Certain things that we done went through in our lives, brothers and sisters, if we had not went through those things, we would not be suitable or prepared or fit to handle the next stage that the Father take us to. All right, so we had to go through this in order to be prepared on the next level, to look for those things, to understand those things, to be able to handle and endure those things. Be mindful of that. All right, we're going back to Genesis, though. Genesis 25. Verse 24 says, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, Esau and Jacob. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's hill, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 old when she bare them. All right. So again, now this is what we just got edification from that second Esdras. Yeah, they was born, and we seeing that Esau came out first. And Jacob's hand took hold of Esau's heel. But that was a similitude to let us know that the end of the world was going to be brought about by Esau. All right, the red man. All right, but the world to follow that, the everlasting world, the kingdom that'll be from for eternity, that one is going to be beginning or initiated by Jacob. Our people, these melanated sons and daughters of Jacob or Israel. All right, but what I want to do here, saints, I want to go into what was going on in the womb, their struggle. Because remember, verse 23 told us that the Most High said that there's two nations in your womb. Two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the young. That's from the Most High. Now, when we go back into Romans 9 that we started, it said that the children being in the womb, neither having done good or evil. It's the purpose of the Most High might stand, the purpose of election. This thing was brought about. All right. So let me get let's see. Let's go back to the Apocrypha. We're gonna go to 2nd Esdras 14. 2nd Esdras 14. 2nd Esdras chapter 14. All right. And it reads, it says, verse 1 where I'm starting. It says, and it came to pass upon the third day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me and said, Esdras, Esdras. And I said, here am I, Lord. And I stood up upon my feet. Then said he unto me, in the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses and talk with him, when my people served in Egypt. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him up to the mount of Sinai, where I held him by me a long season and told him many wondrous things and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, these words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide. All right, so we see in a reference to what's written in Exodus. Exodus 3, where it's telling he appeared to Moses. He showed and revealed himself manifestly in the bush that was burning, though it wasn't consumed. Exodus chapter 3. All right, and said that he led them, the children of Israel, out of Egypt, through Moses did that. All right. So we're going here, though, brothers and sisters, to give us a foundation of why we would use the book of Jubilees. All right, because that's where we're going now. So let's get Jubilees. If you don't have it, you can find it online. You can order it off Amazon as a separate book altogether. Or you can order this book. My cover came out. The pseudepigrapha, though. Pseudepigrapha. All right. And it got the book of Jubilees in it, along with the testament of the 12 patriarchs and some other information, all right, that we could use. All right, but we in Jubilees chapter 19. All right, and I'm gonna start in verse 13 at the B part of it. The B part of verse 13. And this is what it reads. It says, and in the 6th week, in the 2nd year thereof, Rebekah bare to Isaac 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. And Jacob was a smooth and upright man, and Esau was fierce, a man of the field, and hairy, and Jacob dwelt in tents. All right, so we're going to hold this because we want to make sure this thing lining up with what we got in the canon. Going back into the canon, Genesis 26, which is like 25, verse 26 again, it says, and after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 old when she bare them. Verse 27, the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. All right. So we're back in Jubilees. Continuing on, verse 14, it says, and the youths grew, and Jacob learned to write, but Esau did not learn, for he was a man of the field and a hunter, and he learned war, and all his deeds were fierce. And Abraham loved Jacob, but Isaac loved Esau. And Abraham saw the deeds of Esau, and he knew that in Jacob should his name and seed be called. And he called Rebekah and gave commandment regarding Jacob, for he knew that she too loved Jacob much more than Esau. All right, so we're going into, again, what we started out, brothers and sisters, of why the book is telling us that he hated Esau, amongst other reasons. All right, and why he loved Jacob, and why the election and the selection came from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. I said, and he said unto her, my daughter, watch over my son Jacob, for he shall be in my stead on the earth, and for a blessing in the midst of the children of men, and for the glory of the whole seed of Shem. For I know that the Most High will choose him to be a people for possession unto himself, above all peoples that are upon the face of the earth, even like what Deuteronomy 7 and 6 say. And behold, Isaac my son loves Esau more than Jacob, but I see that thou truly lovest Jacob. Add still further to thy kindness to him, and let thine eyes be upon him in love. For he shall be a blessing unto us on the earth from henceforth unto all generations of the earth. Let thy hands be strong, and let thy heart rejoice in thy son Jacob. For I have loved him far beyond all my sons. Now this Abraham talking. This is the same one who the book tells us that this fella was given the title as the friend of the Most High. All right, so he letting Rebekah know, like, look, man, I understand, I see, even in how some parents can see in their own child, like, man, my son or my daughter, she kind of, I can see it might have a malicious spirit. I compare it to my other son or my other daughter. These things can be revealed, the discernment of the spirit. But Abraham looking and said, look, I know for sure, like, it ain't going to be Esau. It's going to be Jacob. Jacob, the one who the Most High going to use. So this is a word being confirmed of the Most High through Abraham. Continuing on. Verse 21 says, let thy hands be strong, and let thy heart rejoice in thy son Jacob, for I have loved him far beyond all my sons. He shall be blessed forever, and his seed shall fill the whole earth. If a man can number the sand of the earth, his seed also shall be numbered. And all the blessings wherewith the Most High have blessed me and my seed shall belong to Jacob and his seed always. And in his seed shall my name be blessed, and the name of my fathers, Shem, and Noah, and Enoch, and Mahalalel, and Enos, and Seth, and Adam. So he didn't reverse it all the way back up to the blessing given to these men in the lineage, saying it is going to trickle down even from what was given to Adam on down through Enoch, from to Methuselah, to him himself, Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. It says, and these shall serve to lay the foundations of the heaven, and to strengthen the earth, and to renew all the luminaries which are in the firmament. And he called Jacob before the eyes of Rebekah his mother, and kissed him, and blessed him, and said, Jacob, my beloved son, whom my soul loveth, may the Most High bless thee from above the firmament, and may he give thee all the blessings wherewith he blessed Adam, and Enoch, and Noah, and Shem, and all the things of which he told me, and all the things which he promised to give me. Shem, and all the things of which he told me, and all the things, Salakia, which he promised to give me, may he cause to cleave to thee and to thy seed forever, according to the days of heaven above the earth. And the spirits of Mashtima, or Satan, the devil, the adversary, shall not rule over thee or over thy seed to turn thee from the Most High, who is thy power from henceforth forever. And may the Lord God be a father to thee, and thou the firstborn son, and to the people always. Go in peace, my son. And they both went forth together from Abraham. And Rebekah loved Jacob with all her heart, with all her soul, very much more than Esau. but Isaac loved Esau much more than Jacob. So we see in here, this thing was not only, as we read in Genesis 25, this thing was recognized by Abraham as well. And Abraham gave him a blessing right here. That blessing was going to be confirmed by the Most High. All right. So now we're going to go into the legend of the Jews. Understanding that we see that Abraham called Jacob, his grandson, to him in the presence of Jacob's mother, Rebekah, so that she would know and see. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, this is how I feel, this is what it is, and this is what I'm expecting and beckoning you to do after I pass. This is what Abraham's saying. All right, so let me share my screen though, so that we can get some reading from the legend of the Jews. All right. Let's see. And we're going to go into the legend of the Jews. I'm going to start with chapter 6. Let me go back up. Indeed. So we're gonna eat tonight. We're gonna get into the sale of the birthright. You just saw that, the favorite of Abraham. All right, so this here. All right, so the legends of the Jews. This is by Louis Ginsburg, volume 1. All right, but we in chapter 6. All right. So we're gonna read this. It says Isaac was the counterpart of his father in body and soul. He resembled him in every particular. You see, in beauty, wisdom, strength, wealth, and noble deeds. It was, therefore, it's great an honor for Isaac to be called the son of his father, as for Abraham to be called the father of his son. And though Abraham was the progenitor of 30 nations, he is always designated as the father of Isaac. Again, showing how that blessing, even though these other people come from Abraham, the blessing was passed down to Isaac, through Isaac to Jacob. All right. So I'm constantly wanting to clarify that. All right. But we're gonna jump down. Yeah, this is what we want. Salaki. All right. I can read through it. It says, despite his many excellent qualities, Isaac married late in life. The Most High permitted him to meet the wife suitable to him only after he had successfully disproved the mocking charges of Ishmael, who was in the habit of taunting him with having been circumcised at the early age of 8 days. While Ishmael had submitted himself voluntarily to the operation when he was 13 years old. For this reason, the Most High demanded Isaac as a sacrifice when he had attained to full manhood at the age of 37, and Isaac was ready to give up his life. Ishmael's jabs were thus robbed of their sting, and Isaac was permitted to marry. All right, so saying that Ishmael was bragging about the fact that he was circumcised at the age that he was. You can read this in Josh as well. He was using it against Isaac to belittle him. So it's saying that that was distinguished, his jibes were thus robbed of their sting by the fact that you also read that in the time appointed that Abraham was told to sacrifice Isaac, Isaac was ready to do it with joy. All right, so he was voluntary, he was down with it, he was ready to go. All right, but even in it, it's a whole nother lesson to be discussed of what was going on. But continuing on, Isaac was permitted to marry, but another delay occurred before his marriage could take place. Directly after the sacrifice on Mount Moriah, his mother died and he mourned her for 3 years. Finally, he married Rebekah, who was then a maiden of 14. Rebekah was a rose between thorns. Her father was the Aramean Bethuel, and her brother was Laban, but she did not walk in their ways. Her piety was equal to Isaac's. Nevertheless, their marriage was not entirely happy, for they lived together no less than 20 years without begetting children. Rebekah besought her husband to entreat the Most High for the gift of children, as his father Abraham had done. All right, it says, at first, Isaac would not do her bidding. Let me highlight that. The Most High had promised Abraham a numerous progeny, and he thought their childlessness was probably Rebekah's fault. And it was her duty to supplicate the Most High and not his. But Rebekah would not desist, and husband and wife repaired to Mount Moriah together to pray to the Most High there. And Isaac said, O Lord God of heaven and earth, whose goodness and mercies fill the earth, thou who didst take my father from his father's house and from his birthplace, and didst bring him unto this land, and didst say unto him, to thee and thy seed will I give the land, and didst promise him and declare unto him, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven and as the sand of the sea. Now may thy words be verified, which thou didst speak unto my father. For thou art the Lord our God. Our eyes are toward thee to give us seed of men as thou didst promise us. For thou art the Lord our God, and our eyes are upon thee. Isaac prayed furthermore that all children destined for him might be born unto him from the pious wife of his. And there's something for us to take in consideration too, family. It said his wife was pious, meaning she had a reverence and a fear for the Most High. All right, so both of these people had a reverence and a fear for the Most High. All right, it says, and Rebekah made the same petition regarding her husband Isaac and the children destined for her. Their united prayer was heard, yet it was chiefly for the sake of Isaac that the Most High gave them children. It is true, Rebekah's piety equaled her husband's, but the prayer of a pious man who is the son of a pious man is far more efficacious than the prayer of one who, though pious himself, is descended from a godless father. So it's telling us that because Abraham was pious, he was God-fearing, he was Most High fearing, and then his son was the same way. He said his prayers is even more stronger. So if we have these type of parents, children, pay attention. Your prayers will be stronger. Any child tuning in, your prayers will be stronger if you got parents that fear the Most High. All right. It says the prayer wrought a great miracle, for Isaac's physique was such that he could not have been expected to beget children. And equally, it was not in the course of nature that Rebekah should bear children. When Rebekah had been pregnant 7 months, she began to wish that the curse of childlessness had not been removed from her. She suffered torturous pain because her twin sons began their lifelong quarrels in her womb. It says they strove to kill each other. If Rebekah walked in the vicinity of a temple erected to idols, Esau moved in her body. And if she passed a synagogue or a Bet Hamidrash, Jacob essayed to break forth from her womb, showing the inclinations of the two children, showing the different manners of these two children. If she was in the vicinity or the proximity of a temple that was to idols, false gods, lesser gods, deities, Esau would get excited. But if she was in the proximity of a house where people were praying to the Most High, where they reverenced the creator of the heavens and the earth, the true and living God, it said Jacob essayed to break forth from her womb. He got excited. The quarrels of the children turned upon such differences as these. Esau would insist that there was no life. Let me highlight it so y'all can see where we at. That there was no life except the earthly life of material pleasures. And Jacob would reply, my brother, there are two worlds before us, this world and the world to come. In this world, men eat and drink and traffic and marry and bring up sons and daughters. But all this does not take place in the world to come. If it please thee, do thou take this world, and I will take the other. So now we get into this second Ezra 6:9. It said Esau is the end of the world, this material world, this carnal world, where we can see the things are decaying and all the wickedness and men and mankind is seeking the pleasures thereof. But Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, that righteous kingdom. All right. Let's see. All right, so we're picking up back here. Esau had Samael as his ally. Samael is the devil, that's Satan. It says, who desired to slay Jacob in his mother's womb. But the archangel Michael hastened to Jacob's aid. He tried to burn Samael, and the Most High saw it was necessary to constitute a heavenly court for the purpose of arbitrating the case of Michael and Samael. Even the quarrel between the two brothers regarding the birthright had its beginning before they emerged from the womb of their mother. Each desired to be the first to come into the world. It was only when Esau threatened to carry his point, check this out, at the expense of his mother's life, that Jacob gave way. So Esau threatening, he's saying, well, look, if I don't be the one to come out first, I'm going to kill our mama. So through that, Jacob said, okay, well, you got it. All right, so some people, that it might seem far-fetched to people to say, man, hold on, man, how is children thinking like this? How is infants in the womb thinking like this? So let's go into the powers of the Most High. If we have children, if you done had children, even if they're not your own, just a child altogether, when you tell that child, hey, sit down, and they sit down, or you tell them be quiet, and they be quiet, they silence and close their lips. What point in time did any person tell them, like, look, this is what it means to sit down, and they displayed the action of their child sitting down for them to copy? So what I'm saying is, how do they understand these commands without even not knowing or having anybody to show them exactly what it means? Nobody went through and said, look, this is sitting down. This is what it is to be quiet. This is what it is to pick up a cup. This is what it is to walk or run. Nobody went through those stages with them. But the Most High, when he formed the mind, he also placed in it understanding. All right, so they already had a mentality. All right, but continuing on though. It says, Rebekah asked other women whether they too had suffered such pain during their pregnancy. When they told her they had not heard of a case like hers except the pregnancy of Nimrod's mother, she betook herself to Mount Moriah, whereon Shem and Eber had their Beth Hamidrash. She requested them as well as Abraham to inquire of the Most High what the cause of her dire suffering was. And Shem replied, my daughter, I confide a secret to thee. See to it that none finds it out. 2 nations are in thy womb. So this was the messenger used to convey the message to her of what was going on in her stomach. Shem. All right. And how should thy body contain them, seeing that the whole world would not be large enough for them to exist in it together peaceably? 2 nations they are, each owning a world of its own. The one, the Torah, the other, sin. From the one will spring Solomon, the builder of the temple. From the other, Vespasian, the destroyer thereof. All right, and what people did Vespasian come from? All right, these two are what are needed to raise the number of nations to 70. They will never be in the same estate. Esau will vaunt lords, while Jacob will bring forth prophets. And if Esau has princes, Jacob will have kings. They, Israel and Rome, are the 2 nations destined to be hated by all the world. One will exceed the other in strength. First, Esau will subjugate the whole world, but in the end, Jacob will rule over all. All right, the saints going to take the kingdom, and the kingdom will be ours forever. We are the children of Jacob. Those who come from the transatlantic slave trade, the sub-Saharan slave trade, or those who have been made the tail instead of the head, those who the world conspires against, and according to Psalm 83, these different nations are confederate against us to cut us off for this same blessing, brothers and sisters. All right, it says the older of the 2 will serve the younger, provided this one is pure of heart. Otherwise, the younger will be enslaved by the older. And we saw that. Chattel slavery. And it not only took place in America. You know, this thing is different forms of slavery. They still dealing with it. You know what I mean? But continuing on. It says the circumstances connected with the birth of her twin sons were as remarkable as those during the period of Rebekah's pregnancy. Esau was the first to see the light, and with him all impurity came from the womb. Jacob was born clean and sweet of body. Esau was brought forth with hair, beard, and teeth, both front and back, and he was blood red, a sign of his future sanguinary nature. All right, so when you read in Jasher, it tells you they called him Esau too because that one was made complete from the womb. All right, so that's what he's talking about. He had hair and everything already. On account of his ruddy appearance, he remained uncircumcised. Isaac, his father, feared that it was due to poor circulation of the blood, and he hesitated to perform the circumcision. He decided to wait until Esau should attain his 13th year, the age at which Ishmael had received the sign of the covenant. But when Esau grew up, he refused to give heed to his father's wish, and so he was left uncircumcised. The opposite of his brother in this is as in all respects, Jacob was born with the sign of the covenant upon his body, a rare distinction. But Esau also bore a mark upon him at birth, the figure of a serpent, the symbol of all that was wicked and hated of the Most High. All right, so we see in these different things, spiritual things is going on, as well as in the physical. All right, let's see if I want anything from here. I'm gonna jump down. We got as much to read, but I'm gonna try to hit the main points. All right, so as you can see, it said the favorite of Abraham. It says, while Esau and Jacob were little, their characters could not be judged properly. They were like the myrtle and the thorn bush, which took alike in the early stages of their growth. After they have attained full size, the myrtle is known by its fragrance and the thorn bush by its thorns. All right, so you should know a tree by their fruit. That's what we get into on that part. It says, in their childhood, both brothers went to school. But when they reached their 13th year and were of age, their ways parted. Jacob continued, here we go, his studies in the Beth Midrash of Shem and Eber. And Esau abandoned himself to idolatry and an immoral life. Both were hunters of men. Esau tried to capture them in order to turn them away from the Most High, and Jacob to turn them toward the Most High. This is going into why he said he hated Esau. All right, because the mentality and the mannerisms of Esau. Look at what he's doing, seeking to turn the people from the Creator, not abiding the commandments that say honor your father and your mother. So that means be obedient to them. He didn't do those things. All right, but Jacob did. All right, so continuing on, it says, let me see. In spite of his impious deeds, here we go. In spite of his impious deeds, Esau possessed the art of winning his father's love. His hypocritical conduct made Isaac believe that his firstborn son was extremely pious. Father, he would ask Isaac, what is the tithe on straw and salt? The question made him appear God-fearing in the eyes of his father, because these two products are the very ones that are exempt from tithing. Isaac failed to notice, too, that his oldest son gave him forbidden food to eat. What he took for the flesh of young goats was dog's meat. So that goes into what we read in Genesis 27. We may be able to cover that tonight. Continuing on, it says, Rebekah was more clear-sighted. She knew her sons as they really were, and therefore her love for Jacob was exceeding great. The oftener she heard his voice, the deeper grew her affection for him. Abraham agreed with her. He also loved his grandson Jacob, for he knew that in him, here we go, we got a second witness to what we just read in Jubilees. For he knew that in him his name and his seed would be called. And he said unto Rebekah, my daughter, watch over my son Jacob, for he shall be in my stead on the earth and for a blessing in the midst of the children of men. And for the glory of the whole seed of Shem. It's the same type of talk that we just read from Jubilees 19. Having admonished Rebekah thus to keep guard over Jacob, who was destined to be the bearer of the blessing given to Abraham by Ahiah, he called for his grandson, and in the presence of Rebekah, he blessed him and said, Jacob, my beloved son, whom my soul loveth. May the Most High bless thee from above the firmament, and may he give thee all the blessing wherewith he blessed Adam and Enoch and Noah and Shem, and all the things of which he told me, and all the things which he promised to give me, may he cause to cleave to thee and to thy seed forever, according to the days of the heavens above the earth. And the spirit of mastermind shall not rule over thee or over thy seed to turn thee from the Most High, who is thy power from henceforth and forever. And may the Lord God be a father to thee, and mayest thou be his firstborn son, and may he be a father to thy people always. Go in peace, my son. And Abraham had good reason to be particularly fond of Jacob, for it was due to the merits of his grandson that he had been rescued from the fiery furnace. All right, let's see if I want more here. Let's see. Continue on. It says, Isaac and Rebekah, knowing of Abraham's love for their young son, sent their father a meal by Jacob on the last feast of Pentecost, which Abraham was permitted to celebrate on earth, that he might eat and bless the creator of all things before he died. Abraham knew that his end was approaching, and he thanked the Most High for all the good he had granted him during the days of his life, and blessed Jacob and bade him walk in the ways of the Most High, and especially he was not to marry a daughter of the Canaanites, all right, because Esau did that. Then Abraham prepared for death. He placed two of Jacob's fingers upon his eyes, and thus holding them closed, he fell into his eternal sleep, while Jacob lay beside him on the bed. The lad did not know of his grandfather's death until he called him on awakening next morning, Father, Father, and received no answer. All right. So let's go into this birthright thing. But before we jump into it, let's go back into Genesis. Going back into Genesis. I don't think we're gonna need Jasher. No, I don't think we're gonna need Jasher no more. Let's see. Indeed. The trolls be funny all the time. So let's go back to Genesis 25. Yeah. Genesis 25, 28. And it reads, it says, and Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. All right. And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field and he was faint. And there's something else I want to share with y'all too. On the case, it was, as I said, those things going on in the physical is also things going on in the spirit when we read these oracles. So at the passing of Isaac, he sent Esau out to get venison, but venison comes from what animal? I'm not gonna say it, so I want y'all to drop it in the comment. What animal does venison come from? All right, and then though he sent Isaac for that, Rebekah sent Jacob to go get goats, right? All right, so and when we read the Torah, the instruction, we read within the law about how the priest was supposed to make sacrifices in the sanctuary to make atonement for sin for the people. Guess what? Those were lawful creatures that were used in the sacrifice. Goats were. Exactly, family. Deer. Deer, there you go. Right, Lenolia. Those the group. Indeed, deer. Deer meat, exactly. So there wasn't a lawful set. We don't read nowhere in the commission of the priest that they ever use a deer for the sacrifices. They always use the goat or lamb or they use turtle doves, these different creatures. So there's certain ones that was used in the sacrifices. I will continue on, saints. Verse 29 says, and Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom, all right, which is red. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. So now the question in the title is Esau's birthright sold or stole? Now we're going into this because it's been a lie propagated and continually being propagated that Jacob stole the birthright. He stole the blessing, so on and so forth. All right, but it was sold, and all of this was ordained by the Most High for a purpose. This blessing wanted to be given to a man that was ungodly, impious, deviant, uh, and practically just a natural man. That being carnal, no reverence or no fear of the Most High, period, in him. It wasn't supposed to be given to him. All right, verse 33 says, and Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. All right, so now we're going to go back to the legend of Judah. Let's get, it's some other things that took place during this transaction, family. So we're going to get some of those things. What went on? So let me share the screen again. Let's see. Here we are. All right, it says the sale of the birthright. It says, though Abraham reached the good old age beyond the limit of years vouchsafed later generations, he had died 5 years before his allotted time. The intention was to let him live to be 180 years old, the same age as Isaac's at his death. But on account of Esau, the Most High brought his life to an abrupt close. For some time, Esau had been pursuing his evil inclinations in secret. Finally, he dropped his mask, and on the day of Abraham's death, he was guilty of 5 crimes. He ravished a betrothed maiden, committed murder, doubted the resurrection of the dead, scorned the birthright, and denied the Most High. Then the Most High said, I promised Abraham that he should go to his fathers in peace. Can I now permit him to be a witness of his grandson's rebellion against the Most High, his violation of the laws of chastity, and his shedding of blood? It is better for him to die now in peace. So, due to Esau's ill activity and his wickedness, the Most High said, I don't even want my servant Abraham to have to witness, you know what I'm saying, his grandson operating like this. I'm gonna go ahead and bring him to me. 5 years shorter than the time that he was gonna give. All right, it says the men slain by Esau on this day were Nimrod and 2 of his adjutants. A long-standing feud had existed between Esau and Nimrod because the mighty hunter before the Most High was jealous of Esau, who also devoted himself assiduously to the chase. Once when he was hunting, it happened that Nimrod was separated from his people. Only 2 men were with him. Esau, who lay in ambush, noticed his isolation and waited until he should pass his covert. Then he threw himself upon Nimrod suddenly and felled him and his 2 companions, who hastened to his succor. The outcries of the latter brought the attendants of Nimrod to the spot where he lay dead, but not before Esau had stripped him of his garments and fled to the city with them. All right, so if you're just not tuning in, or if you have been tuning in, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the message. It may be what the answer to a question somebody have. This might be for somebody else. If it's not for you, if you ain't feeling it today, it might be for somebody else. But smash the like button, subscribe, and share. But picking up here in the next paragraph, it says these garments of Nimrod had extraordinary effect upon cattle, beasts, and birds. Of their own accord, they would come and prostrate themselves before him who was arrayed in them. Thus Nimrod and Esau after him were able to rule over men and beasts. After slaying Nimrod, Esau hastened cityward in great fear of his victim's followers. Tired and exhausted, he arrived at home to find Jacob busy preparing a dish of lentils. Numerous male and female slaves were in Isaac's household. Nevertheless, Jacob was so simple and modest in his demeanor that if he came home late from Beth Hamidrash, he would disturb none to prepare his meal, but would do it himself. On this occasion, he was cooking lentils for his father to serve to him as his mourner's meal after the death of Abraham. Adam and Eve had eaten lentils after the murder of Abel, and so had the parents of Haran when he perished in the fiery furnace. The reason they are used for the mourner's meal is that the round lentils symbolizes death. As the lentils roll, so death, sorrow, and mourning constantly roll about among men from one to the other. All right. Esau accosted Jacob thus: Why art thou preparing lentils, Jacob? Because our grandfather passed away. They shall be a sign of my grief and mourning, that he may love me in the days to come. Esau: Thou fool, dost thou really think it possible that men should come to life again after he has been dead and has moldered in the grave? He continued to taunt Jacob: Why dost thou give thyself so much trouble? He said, Lift up thine eyes, and thou wilt see that all men eat whatever comes to hand: fish, creeping and crawling creatures, swine's flesh, and all sorts of things like these. And thou vexest thyself about a dish of lentils. So Esau said, Man, eat what you want, man. It ain't no certain occasion or ceremony or nothing special about no meal that you prepare. Men eat whatever they find, man. That's what he telling them. Jacob, if we act like other men, what shall we do on the day of the Most High? The day on which the pious will receive their reward, when a herald will proclaim, Where is he that weigheth the deeds of men? Where is he that counteth? Esau, is there a future world? Or will the dead be called back to life? If it was so, why have not Adam returned? Hast thou heard that Noah, through whom the world was raised anew, have reappeared? Yea, Abraham, the friend of the Most High, more beloved of him than any man, have he come to life again? Jacob responds, If thou art of opinion that there is no future world, and that the dead do not rise to new life, then why dost thou want thy birthright? Sell it to me. Now, while it is yet possible to do so, once the Torah is revealed, it cannot be done. Verily, there is a future world in which the righteous receive their reward. I tell thee this, lest thou say later I deceive thee. So he kept it up front and real with like, look, man, it's a world to come. You ain't, if that's your opinion that they don't, you know what I'm saying, none of this stuff don't matter. Ain't no future world. Sell me your birthright. You know what I'm saying? Since right now you alive, you have the ability to give it. Do it while you can right now, D. And don't say that I didn't tell you that it is a world to come where people are going to be rewarded for their actions. All right. So continuing on, it says Jacob was little concerned about the double share of the inheritance. Look at the mindset of him. He wasn't even concerned with the double share of the inheritance that went with the birthright. What he thought of was the priestly service, which was the prerogative of the firstborn in ancient times. And Jacob was loth to have his impious brother Esau play the priest, he who despised all divine service. The scorn manifested by Esau for the resurrection of the dead, he felt also for the promise of God to give the Holy Land to the seed of Abraham. He did not believe in it, and therefore he was willing to cede his birthright and the blessing attached thereto in exchange for a mess of pottage. In addition, Jacob paid him in corn, and besides, he gave him what was more than money, the wonderful sword of Methuselah, which Isaac had inherited from Abraham and bestowed upon Jacob. So he not only did he gave him these lentils that he asked for, he gave him some money, and he gave him a family relic. You know, the sword of Methuselah, right? The son of Enoch. Gave him all these things, man. in exchange for that birthright, which is telling us here, it says that, hey, look, the birthright had attached to it the blessing. So he also, in that moment and in that transaction, he submitted, and the purpose of the Most High's election was being fulfilled even then. All right. It says Esau made game of Jacob. He invited his associates to feast at his brother's table, saying, know ye what I did to this Jacob? I ate his lentils, drank his wine, amused myself at his expense, and sold my birthright to him. All that Jacob replied was, eat and may it do thee good. But the Most High said, thou despisest the birthright, therefore I shall make thee despised in all generations. And by way of punishment for denying the Most High and the resurrection of the dead, the descendants of Esau were cut off from the world. All right. Uh, Read more about that in Obadiah. All right. It says, as naught was holy to Esau, as nothing was holy to Esau, is what it's telling us. Jacob made him swear concerning the birthright by the life of their father, for he knew Esau's love for Isaac, that it was strong. Nor did he fail to have a document made out, duly signed by witnesses, setting forth that Esau had sold him the birthright together with his claim upon a place in the cave of Machpelah. Though no blame can attach to Jacob for all this, yet he secured the birthright from him by cunning, and therefore the descendants of Jacob had to serve the descendants of Esau. So the cunning in it was there. Okay, I'm telling you all this up front. It's almost like in a case where some people, they'll tell you the truth, but they'll tell you the truth just so you won't be able to say that they didn't tell you. But nonetheless, we seeing the birthright and the transaction thereof. Uh so from here, let me scroll down. Not too much. You can read that on your own time, saints. We just dealing with this portion. So I'm gonna start here. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna start right here. The 10 years later. All right. It says 10 years later, when Shem, his teacher, died, Jacob returned home at the age of 50. Another 6 years passed, and Rebekah received the joyful news that her sister-in-law, Adinah, the wife of Laban, who, like all the women of his house, had been childless until then, had given birth to twin daughters, Leah and Rachel. Rebekah, weary of her life on account of the woman chosen by her older son. Read that part again, because this goes into how Esau wasn't even keeping instruction to honor his father and mother. It says, weary of her life on account of the woman chosen by her older son, exhorted Jacob not to marry one of the daughters of Canaan, but a maiden of the family of Abraham. He assured his mother that the words of Abraham, bidding him to marry no woman of the Canaanites, were graven upon his memory, and for this reason he was still unmarried, though he had attained the age of 62. And Esau had been urging him for 22 years past to follow his example and wed a daughter of the people of the land in which they lived. So Esau trying to get them to go against the instructions of their parents, just like a deceiver. That's wicked. All right. Uh, he had heard that his uncle Laban had daughters, and he was resolved to choose one of them as his wife. Deeply moved by the words of her son, Rebekah thanked him and gave praise unto the Most High with the words, blessed be the Lord God, and may his holy name be blessed forever and ever, who have given me Jacob as a pure son and a holy seed, for he is thine, and thine shall his seed be continually and throughout all the generations forevermore. Bless him, O Lord, and place in my mouth the blessing of righteousness, that I may bless him. All right, and it was something I scaved over, saints. During that conversation and the transaction between Esau and Jacob, Jacob told Esau, sell it to me now, because when the Torah is revealed, it cannot be done or undone. So at this portion and at this time, the Torah the instructions and the commandments that was given on the two tables, and the other instruction that Moses gave to the people, that we relate to being listed in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy and throughout the scriptures as well. But beginning in those books, within the first five books, uh, it had to be established then before he brought forth the Torah instructed through Moses. All right, so I just want to drop that in there before we proceed. It says, and when the Spirit of the Lord came over her, she laid her hands upon the head of Jacob and gave him her maternal blessing. It ended with the words, may the Lord of the world love thee as the heart of thy affectionate mother rejoices in thee, and may he bless thee. All right. So now we're going into what happened with the blessing. I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to get this verse here too out the Apocrypha. I'm going into Sirach chapter 3. Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 3. So this time into Rebekah's inclination toward Jacob instead of Esau as well. All right. Ecclesiasticus chapter 3, verse. I'll start with 1. It says, hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter that ye may be safe. For the Most High have given the father honor over the children, and have confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. Whoso honoreth his father maketh an atonement for his sins. And he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. Whoso honoreth his father shall have joy of his own children, and when he maketh his prayer, he shall be heard. Verse 6, he that honoreth his father shall have a long life, and he that is obedient unto the Most High shall be a comfort to his mother. So Jacob was that. He was obedient to Rebekah. He was honoring his father and his mother. Esau wasn't doing the like. All right, and in it, she was swayed and had more of a concern for Jacob, improving through what was told to her about Abraham, even Shem as well. I will continuing on. It says Esau's marriages with the daughters of the Canaanites was an abomination, not only in the eyes of his mother, but also in the eyes of his father. He suffered even more than Rebekah through the idolatrous practices of his daughters-in-law. It is the nature of man to oppose less resistance than woman to disagreeable circumstances. So saying that if it's something that a man is dealing with that he don't agree with, he's prone to just be like, okay, man, listen, I ain't finna keep wrestling with you about it, man. Okay, you can have it. But a woman will continue on contending with that thing further than a man. All right, it says a bone is not harmed by a collision that will shiver an earthen pot in pieces. Man, who was created out of the dust of the ground, has not the endurance of woman formed out of bone. Isaac was made prematurely old by the conduct of his daughters-in-law, and he lost the sight of his eyes. See that? Through the disobedience of Esau choosing these women, these Canaanite women, it affected his father. It affected Isaac. All right, it says Rebekah had been accustomed in the home of her childhood to the incense burnt before idols, and she could therefore bear it under her own roof tree. Unlike her, Isaac had never had any such experience while he abode with his parents. And he was stung by the smoke arising from the sacrifices offered to their idols by his daughters-in-law in his own house. Isaac's eyes had suffered earlier in life too, when he lay bound upon the altar about to be sacrificed by his father. The angels wept, and their tears fell upon his eyes, and there they remained and weakened his sight. At the same time, he had brought the scourge of blindness down upon himself by his love for Esau. He justified the wicked for a bribe. The bribe of Esau's filial love and loss of vision is the punishment that follows the taking of bribes. A gift, it is said, blinds the eyes of the wise. So this is why, brothers and sisters, the book is letting us know a gift destroys the heart as well. For us to do judgment and righteousness with equity, not to take bribes, all right, but to deal truly with our neighbors. If you wrong, you wrong. If you right, you right. All right, it says, nevertheless, his blindness proved a benefit for Isaac as well as Jacob. In consequence of his physical ailments, Isaac had to keep at home. And so he was spared the pain of being pointed out by the people as the father of the wicked Esau. And again, if his power of vision had been unimpaired, he would not have blessed Jacob. As it was, the Most High treated him as a physician treats a sick man who is forbidden to drink wine, for which, however, he has a strong desire. To placate him, the physician orders that warm water be given him in the dark, and he be told that it is wine. When Isaac reached the age of 123 and was thus approaching the years attained by his mother, he began to meditate upon his end. It is proper that a man should prepare for death when he comes close to the age at which either of his parents passed out of life. Isaac reflected that he did not know whether the age allotted to him was his mother's or his father's, and he therefore resolved to bestow his blessing upon his older son, Esau, before death should overtake him. He summoned Esau and said, "My son," and Esau replied, "Here am I." But the Holy Spirit interposed. Though he disguises his voice and makes it sound sweet, put no confidence in him. There are 7 abominations in his heart. He will destroy 7 holy places: the tabernacle, the sanctuaries at Gilgal, Shiloh, Nob, and Gibeon, and the first and the second temple. Gently, though Esau continued to speak to his father, he yet longed for his end to come. So he's speaking softly, but he really like, man, I can't wait to Pop to die. I'm ready for this blood. I'm ready for this old sickly man or blind man to pass away out this world. But again, it says the Holy Spirit interposed. It said, but Isaac was stricken with spiritual as well as physical blindness. The Holy Spirit deserted him, and he could not discern the wickedness of his older son. He bade him sharpen his slaughtering knives and beware of bringing him the flesh of an animal that had died of itself, which is in the law, or had been torn by a beast, which is in the law. And he was to guard also against putting an animal before Isaac that had been stolen from his rightful owner, which is in the law. It says, then continued Isaac, will I bless him who is worthy of being blessed? This charge was laid upon Esau on the eve of the Passover. And Isaac said to him, tonight the whole world will sing the halal unto the Most High. It is the night when the storehouses of dew are unlocked. Therefore prepare dainties for me, that my soul may bless thee before I die. But the Holy Spirit interposed. Eat not the bread of him that hath an evil eye. Isaac's longing for tidbits was due to his blindness. As the sightless cannot behold the food they eat, they do not enjoy it with full relish, and their appetite must be tempted with particularly palatable morsels. Esau sallied forth to procure what his father desired, little recking the whence or how, whether by robbery or theft. So he was still going to go out, and if he had to rob to get it or steal it to get it, he was going to get it. To hinder the quick execution of his father's order, the Most High sent Satan on the chase with Esau, showing that the Most High uses the adversary family. Anything he do, it got to be stamped by the Most High. All right, so if one is aligned with the Most High, it ain't nothing that the adversary can do to completely overcome you. All right, so we want to make sure that we in good with the Creator. All right, it says he was to delay him as long as possible. Esau would catch a deer and leave him lying bound while he pursued other game. Immediately, Satan would come and liberate the deer, and when Esau returned to the spot, his victim was not to be found. This was repeated several times. Again and again, the quarry was run down and bound and liberated, so that Jacob was able, meanwhile, to carry out the plan of Rebekah, whereby he would be blessed instead of Esau. Though Rebekah had not heard the words that had passed between Isaac and Esau, they nevertheless were revealed to her through the Holy Spirit, and she resolved to restrain her husband from taking a false step. She was not actuated by love for Jacob, but by the wish of keeping Isaac from committing a detestable act. Rebekah said to Jacob, "This night the storehouses of dew are unlocked. It is the night during which the celestial beings chant the Hallel unto the Most High, the night set apart for the deliverance of the children from Egypt, on which they, too, will sing the Hallel. Go now and prepare savory meat for thy father, that he may bless thee before his death. Do as I bid thee, obey me as thou art wont, for thou art my son, whose children, every one, will be good and the Most High fearing, not one shall be graceless." All right, so they able to prophesy. I'm dropping this in too, brothers and sisters. They had prophecies in their time too. The same way we had prophecies, and we seen prophecies fulfilled, and we awaiting other prophecies to even to be fulfilled in this hour. They had prophecies that they were looking forward to as well, that they knew of. It says, in spite of his great respect for his mother, we almost done here. Let me highlight this. It says, in spite of his great respect for his mother, Jacob refused at first to heed her command. He feared he might commit a sin, especially as he might thus bring his father's curse down upon him. As it was, Isaac might still have a blessing for him after giving Esau his. But Rebekah allayed his anxieties with the words, when Adam was cursed, the malediction fell upon his mother, the earth, and so shall I, thy mother, bear the imprecation, if thy father curses thee. Moreover, if the worst comes to the worst, I am prepared to step before thy father and tell him, Esau is a villain and Jacob is a righteous man. Thus constrained by his mother, Jacob, in tears and with body bowed, went off to execute the plan made by Rebekah. As he was to provide a Passover meal, she bade him get 2 kids, one for the Passover sacrifice and one for the festival sacrifice. To soothe Jacob's conscience, she added that her marriage contract entitled her to 2 kids daily. And she continued, these 2 kids will bring good unto thee, the blessing of thy father, and they will bring good unto thy children. For 2 kids will be the atoning sacrifice offered on the Day of Atonement. So we seeing that before we got those instructions, that they had a foundation with our forefathers and foremothers. It says Jacob's hesitation was not yet removed. His father, he feared, would touch him and convince him that he was not Harry and therefore not his son Esau. Accordingly, Rebekah tore the skins of the 2 kids into strips and sewed them together for Jacob. Sewed them together. For Jacob was so tall a giant that otherwise they would not have sufficed to cover his hands. To make Jacob's disguise complete, Rebekah felt justified in putting Esau's wonderful garments on him. They were the high priestly raiment in which the Most High had clothed Adam, the firstborn of the world. For in the days before the erection of the tabernacle, all the firstborn males officiated as priests. From Adam, these garments descended to Noah, who transmitted them to Shem, and Shem bequeathed them to Abraham, and Abraham to his son Isaac, from whom they reached Esau as the older of his 2 sons. And we know Esau, he ended up getting those the way that he got. It was the opinion of Rebekah that as Jacob had bought the birthright from his brother, he had thereby come into possession of the garments as well. There was no need for her to go and fetch them from the house of Esau. He knew his wives far too well to entrust so precious a treasure to them that were in the safe keeping of his mother. Besides, he used them most frequently in the house of his parents. As a rule, he did not lay much stress upon decent apparel. He was willing to appear on the street clad in rags, but he considered it his duty to wait upon his father arrayed in his best. My father, Esau, was in the habit of saying, is a king in my sight, and it would ill become me to serve before him in anything but royal apparel. To the great respect he manifested toward his father, the descendants of Esau owe all their good fortune on earth. Thus doeth the Most High reward a good deed. All right, so let me hold it for a second. Let me hold it for a moment. Now let's go. Because he's talking about the garments and everything. So we still got to make sure we lining up, right? For some people who may be questioning these particular records in certain aspects. All right, so we're going back into Genesis. Let's see. Genesis. Genesis 27. That's where we're going to be at. Genesis 27. All right, I'm going to start it from the top. Yay. Shalom, Hebrew. All right, Genesis 27 and 1, family. It says, and it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son and said unto him, my son. And he said unto him, behold, here am I. And he said, behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver and thy bow, and go out to the field and take me some venison, and make me savory meat such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son. All right, so for those who paying attention, you may say, well, hold up. We just read that she didn't hear it. But furthermore, it reads that the Holy Spirit revealed it to her. So though she didn't hear it audibly, she heard it in the spirit, family. So, and I know that's a little bit too much for some people who don't believe that the Father's powers can go to that level. I know some people say, oh man, you've been bewitched. Hey, that's your persuasion, but we understand that the Creator he beyond supernatural. He beyond amazing. It ain't nothing impossible for him. All right, so she heard it by that means. Verse 6, it says, and Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat, and bless thee before the Most High before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats. And I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall sing to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing. So this is the conversation. We say, hey, listen, just chill out. It's all good. You know what I mean? If that happens or something like that, I'm going to be the one to take upon myself any type of retribution that come behind it. It says, and his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother. And his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau. Now, this is what we just left off from the Legend of the Jews. Said, you know, she didn't have to go fetch it out of Esau's house or nothing. She already had it close by her. That being the raiment or the garment that was passed down from Adam to Shem, to Noah to Shem, on down to Abraham, and then it was attained by Jacob from Esau through the transaction of the birthright. All right, let's see. Verse 14, and he went and fetched and brought them to his mother. His mother made savory meat such as his father loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread, which she had prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou? Who art thou, my son? All right. And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. So, keeping in mind, family, where we started at the beginning and the inception of tonight's message, Romans 9 let us know this thing was already ordained. This was already in alignment for the Father's will. All right, verse 20 says, And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac, his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned them not, because his hands were hairy, as his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank. There's something standing out. Look, I done read this a few times, and I missed that point that he drank wine at the end. All right, verse 26 says, And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him. And he smelled the smell of his raiment, and he blessed him and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Most High have blessed. Therefore, the Most High give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and have taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not the rightly named Jacob? Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he have supplanted me these 2 times. Now, he's saying that he supplanted him twice, but we understand and know for sure you sold your birthright. You didn't even care for the birth. So how did he trick you in that case? This is the lie that's being propagated. All right, and we also read within the legend of the Jews that with their birthright attached to it is the blessing. Now that's on the earthly level, that's in the physical. But going back again to what we read in Romans 9, this thing was according to the purpose of election by the Most High. All right, 36 again. Genesis 27:36. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. What shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. All right, so from here we're going to go back into the legends of the Jews to get some more clarification on what's being said here. So let me share the screen, Saints. More detail. Some more detail, people. All right, so we picking up. We picking up here. It says Rebekah led Jacob equipped and arrayed in his way to the door of Isaac's chamber. There she parted from him with the words, Henceforth may the Creator assist thee. Jacob entered, addressing Isaac with Father, and receiving the response, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? He replied equivocally, It is I, thy firstborn son is Esau. All right, so look at how he said it. Thy firstborn son is Esau. All right, it says he sought to avoid a falsehood and yet not betray that he was Jacob. Isaac then said, Thou art greatly in haste to secure thy blessing. Now, father Abraham was 75 years old when he was blessed, and thou art but 63. Jacob replied awkwardly, Because the Lord thy God sent me good speed. Isaac concluded at once that this was not Esau, for he would not have mentioned the name of God. And he made up his mind to feel the son before him and make sure who he was. Terror seized upon Jacob at the words of Isaac. Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son. A cold sweat covered his body, and his heart melted like wax. Then the Most High caused the archangels Michael and Gabriel to descend. The one seized his right hand, the other his left hand, while the Most High God himself supported him, that his courage might not fail him. Isaac felt him, and finding his hands hairy, he said, so even if we pause there, it said that the Most High caused Michael and Gabriel to descend to usher Jacob to Isaac to even receive this blessing. Man, the whole thing was a ceremony. All right, it says, let me pick back up. The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. Words in which he conveyed the prophecy that so long as the voice of Jacob is heard in the houses of prayer and of learning, the hands of Esau will not be able to prevail against him. So let us take that into consideration, Israelites, Hebrews. As long as we in prayer, as long as we in the house of learning, as long as we obeying the Most High, as long as we in his steed, in his goodwill, Esau can't work against us. He can't overcome us. It says, yes, he continued. It is the voice of Jacob, the voice that imposes silence upon those on earth and in heaven. For even the angels may not raise their voices in praise of the Most High until Israel has finished his prayer. Now look at how much power has been bestowed upon us. Look at how much reverence the Most High instilled in our bloodline. So much so that if we praise in the Most High, man, them angels got to be quiet till we get finished. After we get through praising and glorifying and lifting up his name and thanking him and, you know what I mean, giving him all the salutations, the honor and everything that belongs to him, then can the angels give praise. Thank you, Father. The water opera. It says Isaac's scruples about blessing the son before him were not yet removed. This is where we at. For with his prophetical eye he foresaw that this one would have descended to would vex the Most High. At the same time, it was revealed to him that even the sinners in Israel would turn penitents. And then he was ready to bless Jacob. He bade him come near and kiss him to indicate that it would be Jacob who would imprint the last kiss upon Isaac, before he was consigned to the grave, he and none other. When Jacob stood close to him, he discerned the fragrance of paradise clinging to him, and he exclaimed, "See, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field which the Lord hath blessed." The fragrance emanating from Jacob was not the only thing about him derived from paradise. The archangel Michael had fetched thence the wine which Jacob gave his father to drink, that an exalted mood might descend upon him. For only when a man is joyously excited, the Shekinah rests upon him. The Holy Spirit filled Isaac. Let me stop right here. Let me highlight that. What happened? The Holy Spirit filled Isaac. And he gave Jacob his tenfold blessing. God give thee of the dew of heaven, the celestial dew wherewith Ahia will awaken the pious to new life in days to come, and of the fatness of the earth, the goods of this world, and plenty of corn and wine, the Torah and the commandments which bestow the same joy upon man as abundant harvest. Peoples shall serve thee. The Japhethites and the Hamites, nations shall bow down to thee. The Shemite nations, thou wilt be Lord over thy brethren. The Ishmaelites and the descendants of Keturah, thy mother's sons, will bow down to thee. Esau and his princes, cursed be everyone that curseth thee, like Balaam, and blessed be everyone that blesseth thee, like Moses. For each blessing invoked upon Jacob by his father Isaac, a similar blessing was bestowed upon him by the Most High himself in the same words. As Isaac blessed him with dew, so also the Most High. And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples, as dew from the Most High. Isaac blessed him with the fatness of the earth, so also the Most High. And he shall give the rain of thy seed, that thou shalt sow the ground withal, and bread of the increase of the ground, and it shall be fat and plenteous. Isaac blessed him with plenty of corn and wine, so also the Most High. I will send you corn and wine, Isaac said. Peoples shall serve thee, so also the Most High. Kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their faces to the earth, and lick the dust of thy feet. Isaac said, nations shall bow down to thee, so also the Most High. And he will make thee high above all nations which he hath made, in praise and in name and in honor. To this double blessing his mother Rebekah joined hers. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the serpent shall thou trample under feet, because he hath set his love upon me. Therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. The Holy Spirit added in turn, he shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Jacob left the presence of his father, crowned like a bridegroom and adorned like a bride, and bathed in celestial dew, which filled his bones with marrow and transformed him into a hero and a giant. Of a miracle done for him at that very moment, Jacob himself was not aware. Had he tarried with his father an instant longer, Esau would have met him there and would surely have slain him. It happened that exactly as Jacob was on the point of leaving the tent of his father, carrying in his hands the plates off which Isaac had eaten, he noticed Esau approaching, and he concealed himself behind the door. Fortunately, it was a revolving door, so that though he could see Esau, he could not be seen by him. All right. It was something else I wanted to add in here. Speaking on the giants, let's see. Let me see. Hold on, saints. Speaking on that of the giants. Let's go back to second age. We're gonna come back to this. Because what I'm gonna close out it is Esau's uh, perpetual hatred. Born made bosses. You can find it online, The Legend of the Jews. I suppose that you may be able to order it off Amazon. But we're going back to Second Ezra 5. All right, because the reference of giants, we heard that twice tonight. All right, and some people don't believe it to be true. I, for one, I do. Um, and I'm not talking about a giant being somebody who's 13 feet tall or 14 feet. I'm talking about extended massive, so much so that a man in his own sight compared to a giant would be as a cricket, and even from the sight of the giant or Nephilim, that man would be a cricket. All right, but what happened? Why aren't we that size anymore? It's in the book. Second Ezra chapter 5, verse 51. It says, He answered me and said, Ask a woman that beareth children, and she shall tell thee. Say unto her, Wherefore are not they whom thou hast now brought forth like thee, those that were before, but less of stature? And she shall answer thee, They that be born in the strength of youth are of one fashion, and they that are born in the time of age, when the womb felleth, are otherwise. Consider thou therefore also how that ye are less of stature than those that were before you. And so are they that come after you less than ye, as the creatures which now begin to be old and have passed over the strength of youth. All right, so even in comparison within it, we're saying even the earth itself uh, is beyond her years of her youthfulness. All right, her youthfulness in time past, in the time of Adam, in the time of Abraham, the earth was still at a younger age. But now the earth has waxed more and more older. And through doing so, the people born, we've shrunk in our stature. Nonetheless, the Most High reigns supreme. All praise to the Most High. So let's go back to it. Let me see here. We're going back to it. The legend of the Jews. All right. Esau's true character revealed. It says Esau arrived a delay of 4 hours. After a delay of 4 hours. In spite of all the efforts he had put forth, he had not succeeded in catching any game. He was compelled to kill a dog and prepare its flesh for his father's meal. So he was finna give Isaac dog meat. All this had made Esau ill-humored, and when he bade his father partake of the meal, the invitation sounded harsh. Let my father arise, he said, and eat of his son's venison. Jacob had spoken differently. He had said, Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison. The words of Esau terrified Isaac greatly. His fright exceeded that which he had felt when his father was about to offer him as a sacrifice. And he cried out, Who then is he that have been the mediator between me and the Lord, to make the blessing reach Jacob? Words meant to imply that he suspected Rebekah of having instigated Jacob's act. Isaac's alarm was caused by his seeing hell at the feet of Esau. Scarcely had he entered the house when the walls thereof began to get hot on account of the nearness of hell, which he brought along with him. Isaac could not but exclaim, Who will be burnt down yonder, I or my son Jacob? And the Lord answered him, Neither thou nor Jacob, but the hunter. So we seeing what's going on. He said the hunter is the one going to be burnt, not Isaac or Jacob. All right, it says Isaac told Esau that the meat set before him by Jacob had marvelous qualities. Any savor that one desired it possessed. It was even endowed with the taste of the food that the Most High will grant the pious in the world to come. I know not, he said, what the meat was, but I had only to wish for bread, and it tasted like bread, or fish, or locusts, or flesh of animals. In short, it had the taste of any dainty one would wish for. When Esau heard the word flesh, he began to weep, and he said, To me, Jacob gave no more than a dish of lentils, and in payment for it, he took my birthright. What must he have taken from thee for flesh of animals? Hitherto, Isaac had been in great anguish on account of the thought that he had committed a wrong in giving his blessing to his younger son instead of the firstborn, to whom it belonged by law and custom. But when he heard that Jacob had acquired the birthright from Esau, he said, I gave my blessing to the right one. In his dismay, Isaac had the intention of cursing Jacob for having wrested the blessing from him through cunning. The Most High prevented him from carrying out his plan. He reminded him that he would but curse himself, seeing that his blessing contained the words, Cursed be everyone that curseth thee. But Isaac was not willing to acknowledge his blessing valid as applied to Jacob until he was informed that his second son was the possessor of the birthright. Only then did he say, Yea, he shall be blessed. Whereat Esau cried with an exceeding great and bitter cry, by way of punishment for having been the cause of such distress. A descendant of Jacob, Mordecai, was also made to cry with a loud and bitter cry. And his grief was brought forth by the Amalekite Haman, the descendant of Esau. At the words of Isaac, thy brother came with wisdom and have taken away thy blessing. Esau spat out in vexation and said, He took away my birthright and I kept silence. And now that he takes away my blessing, should I also keep silence? Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. Isaac continued to speak to Esau. Behold, I have made him thy Lord. He is thy king, and do what thou wilt. Thy blessings will still belong to him. All his brethren have I given to him for slaves. And what slaves possess belongs to his owner. There is nothing for it. Thou must be content that thou wilt receive thy bread baked from thy master. The Lord took it ill of Isaac that he cheered him with such kind words. To mine enemy, he reproached him. Thou sayest, What shall I do for thee, my son? Isaac replied, Oh, that he might find grace with thee, the Most High. He is a recreant. Isaac, doth he not act righteously when he honors his parents, the Most High? In a land of uprightness will he deal wrongfully. He will stretch his hand forth in days to come against the temple. Isaac, then let him enjoy much good in this world, that he may not behold the abiding place of the Lord in the world to come. So now we getting an understanding about, okay, well, Israel, we suffer so much. We have suffered so much. Why is it that this race, this Caucasian race, seems to be running everything and riding upon the fatness of the earth and gaining all this power and honor and so on and so forth? Because the portion is given to them in this land. You know what I mean? So that adage that's known throughout the earth, YOLO, you only live once, and attached to that is the mentality and the mindset to do everything ill, have as much fun as you can. That goes back into their portion. Their portion. This is what the Most High saying here. All right, but it says in the world to come, it's gonna be our kingdom, it's our rulership. It's gonna be transferred. All right, continuing on, it says, when it became plain to Esau that he could not induce his father to annul the blessing bestowed upon Jacob, he tried to force a blessing for himself by an underhand trick. He said, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. Else it would be said, Thou hast but one blessing to bestow. Suppose both Jacob and I had been righteous men. Listen to what he say. Suppose both Jacob and I had been righteous men. So he letting you know he ain't righteous. What if both of us was righteous? That's what he's saying. Had not then thy power had 2 blessings, one for each? The Lord himself made reply, Silence. Jacob will bless the 12 tribes, and each blessing will be different from every other. But Isaac felt great pity for his older son, and he wanted to bless him, but the Shekinah forsook him, and he could not carry out what he purposed. Thereupon Esau began to weep. He shed 3 tears. One ran from his right eye, the second from his left eye, and the third remained hanging from his eyelash. The Most High said, This villain cries for his very life. And should I let him depart empty-handed? And then he bade Isaac bless his oldest son. All right. And so, well, let me finish it off. The blessing of Isaac ran thus: Behold, of the fat of the earth shall be thy dwelling, by which he meant greater Greece in Italy, and of the dew of heaven from above, referring to Bet Gubrin. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. But when he casts off the yoke of the Most High, then shalt thou shake his yoke from off thy neck, and thou will be his master. So going into, we open ourselves up, Israel, to be ruled by any other nation when we move away from under the hedge of the Most High. When we stop abiding those commandments and doing what thus saith the Most High, that's when we go into a portion where we can have Esau as our master. That's how we got into the condition that we in. But all praise to the Most High for the returning of the captivity. And captivity not being servitude and oppression, but the restoration of our rightful position as rulers. All right, it says, the blessing which Isaac gave to his oldest son was bound to no condition whatsoever, whether he deserved them or not. Esau was to enjoy the goods of this world. Jacob's blessing, however, depended upon his pious deeds. Through them, he would have a just claim upon earthly prosperity. Isaac thought, Jacob is a righteous man. He would not murmur against the Most High. Though it should come to pass that suffering be inflicted upon him in spite of his upright life. But that reprobate Esau, if he should do a good deed or pray to the Most High and not be heard, he would say, as I pray to the idols for naught, so it is in vain to pray to the Most High. For this reason did Isaac bestow an unconditional blessing upon Esau. All right, family. So within that last portion are we seeing, this is the importance of why we're going into this. It's through our obedience that we receive the rewards and the blessings of the Most High. That we receive and can operate in that blessing that was bestowed upon us in the bloodline, in our lineage that we come from through Isaac in obedience. Everybody else, they don't have their condition. So when I say saints and I say according to Psalm 50 and 5, those who have made a covenant with the Most High through sacrifice, we are those same people. Nobody else has their covenant with the Most High, or they don't have these conditional terms for their blessings, wherefore making us more closer to him, the Creator. All right. And in this same reason, this is why these other nations seek to have us to contend with the Most High, to have us ignorant of the obedience that comes with blessing, to keep us endowed and indulged and drowned in sin and disobedience, that we may continually be at odds with the Most High God. All right. Let me go to Hebrews 12 and 17, though, and I'm going to close it out with Ezekiel. Hebrews 12 and 17. Hebrews 12 and 17. I pray that the message was edifying, strengthening, and ministering to the soul enough to build you up, to build us up. Hebrews 12, I'm going to hit 16 first. It says, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For you know how that after when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. So even though he cried and all that, the Most High didn't allow it to be that the blessing that Isaac parted out to be given to Esau. It remained with Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. All right, let's go to Ezekiel 35, though. So even unto this day, this is what we see, and this is the understanding. It goes back to that. Because as you go back to read Genesis 27, please do, you're going to see that Esau was furious. He gained the hate for his brother at that point. All right. All right. Esau, who is Edom, synonymous with Idumea or Seir, Mount Seir as well. Ezekiel 35, verse 1. He says, moreover, the word of the Most High came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it, and say unto it, thus saith the Lord God, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Most High, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord God, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So that's what the Most High proclaimed over Edom, over Esau, all right, because of their perpetual hatred. All right. So prayerfully, the understanding was fortified, strengthened, and increased. Questions, comments, and concerns before we close out, family. His word is real. Shalom. Questions, comments, and concerns. Go back through these comments. Questions, comments, and concerns, family. When I go into the comments. Let's see. Okay, I'm seeing here. As we communicate in the comments, family, make sure y'all stand on the subject. You don't want to open the door for some kind of confusion and another conversation. It's enough for us to get one topic. It's just out of respect, man. All right, Reuben Ingram asked earlier, said, you see the Messiah as the Father? I do not. They are separate beings. As the Father have life within himself, so does the Son have life within himself. Let's see. Come down. Angela Patton, as far as baptism, what city, what state are you in, sister? You Cove, Israel. If you're still on, Shalom, son. Okay, y'all got them straight on there. Let's see. Let's see. Mm-mm. Mm, let's see. I'm still looking, family. Yep, we got that question out the way. The deer meat, so on. Let's see. Indeed. Yeah, it in the moment the most high can wake us up. I'm going down to the bottom. What Lenoy, what can I get the book? Legend of the Jews. Uh that's the PDF that I was reading off. So if you Google Legend of the Jews PDF, that'll pull up and it'll give you the option to download it. I haven't checked Amazon, but more than likely it probably is on Amazon. Excuse me. All right. Nothing else. Uh, okay. Real say I was thinking maybe we should touch on Amalek being Esau's grandson. Some people think they are separate lineages. Oh, so if we go to Chronicles, because that's why this is important. Chronicles give you a rundown on a lot of where the people come from. Oh man, Dr. Guru, all praise to the Most High. Thank you. May this same blessing be returned upon your head speedily. Right? But I'm in First Chronicles chapter 1. First Chronicles chapter 1, verse 34. This is where I'm starting at. All right, for what we got on the screen. It says, and Abraham begat Isaac, the sons of Isaac, Esau, and Israel. The sons of Esau, Eliphaz, Ruel, and Jeush, and Jaalam, and Korah. The sons of Eliphaz, Teman, and Omar, Zephi, and Gatam, Kenaz, and Timnah, and Amalek. All right, so I'm trying to show you. Let's see if we can get it in there. Esau's family record. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Esau's family record. You see that there? Coming to, yeah. Tina and Amalek. All right, so Amalek is a descendant of Esau. They are one lineage. Yep, they are all one lineage. Born made bosses. All praise to the Most High, man. All right, family. So you thinking of anything else in the meanwhile? Let's send it here. And as far as the doors of the church in Memphis being open, the doors of the church are open, but to like-minded individuals. I'm not one who don't understand that spirits are real and dwelling bodies. You know what I'm saying? So in the book tell you, invite not every man into your home. All right. So there's a very personal space to be in. So the doors are open, but for like-minded, the like-minded souls, those who truly and sincerely seeking the Most High. Not no contrary spirit or somebody who's going to try to come in and bring division or anything else. That ain't what we rocking with. Uh, you will be dealt with if that was the case. If you did come. But to answer your question, Ruben, the doors of the church are open. It's a free. All right, so the one I'm looking at is by. Let me see, I'm gonna drop. Let me drop the link. I think I dropped it earlier. Let's see here. Go to the top. Yeah, it's by Louis Ginsburg. But hold up, let me see. I'm gonna give you the exact link, the one that I was using. The one that I was using here. Let's see. Try to see. Here you go, right here, born made boss. Click that link right there, and what I do when I close out, Father, and I'm gonna drop that same link within the description of this video, so anybody else who want to get it, you better go to it as well. All right. His will is real. Said, thanks, Doc. So many people think Amalek is Japheth. I thought I was reading it wrong. Oh no, man. Amalek comes from Esau. All right. No other question coming to concern. Well, may the Most High be with y'all. May all who bless y'all be blessed. All who curse y'all be cursed. We ate tonight. All praise to the Most High, man. May the Most High cover y'all's habitations with angels of water, protect y'all from all malevolent and evil spirits, unclean spirits, and those that come to draw y'all off the path of righteousness. Pray for me as I pray for y'all. And may the Most High continue to be glorified. Endure to the end, saints. Shalom.